And on social media here, Colorado football coach Deion Sanders admits he openly ranks his children based on their performance. He says week by week it can change. Coach Prime says when parents say they love all their kids the same, he thinks, that's a lie, according to him. Sanders says the rankings change with what the kids do and their accomplishments. Is favoring one child over another damaging or motivating? And he says it changes week by week.
I always wonder with Deion how much of this is true and how much of it is kind of like being prime time, right? Mm-hmm. But let's say he's saying
let's say it's the truth.
All right, Dr. Shier is here, child and adolescent psychiatrist, and I would imagine, first of all, thank you for being here. Good to see you.
Good to see you guys too. It's been a while.
I would imagine that if you're the number one ranked child, you might feel a certain way. If you're the bottom ranked child, you might feel another. What do you think about the ranking thing?
Well, I think it must be tough to be his children.
Right.
But competition is natural in life, and so I think fostering competition, but in a healthy way, is really what parents should be doing. I would never tell him what he should be doing because he's prime. Right. But I think really focusing on boosting kids' self-esteem is what every parent should be doing. Maybe it works for his kids, though. Maybe they're, they have a different set of genes, and maybe they're able to really respond to it in a positive way. But yeah, I think it definitely varies from child to child.
And I think you touched on something with like the genes. I think sometimes when you look at elite athletes, maybe they respond to their kids different, or their kids have different goals in life that you have to kind of encourage them to pursue.
Yes, and it's a lot more likely that his children will become, a pro football player than maybe mine. Right. And that's a fact of nature.
Parenting's tough, right? So at what point do you want your kids to compete with each other? Do you say, oh, your brother never does that? Or why can't you be more like your sister? I mean, what does that dynamic bring into the family?
So, I think the most important thing for parents to do in general is to focus on the process. So say both kids are trying out for the same team, and one gets it and one doesn't. It's not about who got it or who didn't, not the end point, but it's about the process. Like, I saw you up there and you were focused. I know you were nervous. We talked about this, but you were laser focused. And that's a comment that could go for either kids, the one who either made it or the one who didn't. But in general, focusing on the process, because truly, everything that, every person with great stature, it's a stepwise process. For little kids, they just see, oh, there's that person who's number one, that's that person who's great. Yeah. But all of those people who are up there got there by the steps and the processes. So if you start to teach kids that, you went out there and you did it and that was awesome, that won, that was winning for me, that's winning for them. And so they get to understand that it's about the steps. It's not about the end goal. As long as you as a parent focus on the steps, and then the end goal can be like, and then look at that, you got the point. But it's not about the point. It's about how you went in there and you were focused and
tried
you were
hard,
brave.
you did all your effort.
Exactly, or whatever it is that you see, it was really amazing that your child did in that moment.
Well, and we're talking about sports, but maybe your kid isn't into sports. Maybe they're into chess or art or something.
Yes.
And maybe as a parent, you weren't into that. And so that's a part of the challenge too, is helping your kid find what they're good at.
Yes. And I think when you really do focus on the process, it doesn't matter necessarily, because you can see bravery looks the same.
It does.
And a lack of self-confidence looks the same. But how do we boost our kids' self-esteem? It's by teaching them that it's the steps and it's the being present and in the moment, and being there despite what they're feeling maybe inside. That's how you build their self-esteem, and that's how you get them to be the adult that we want them to be, because there's going to be all sorts of challenges, wins, losses, maybe more losses than wins.
We learn a lot more from those than we
Yes, we really do. We do.
That's
but
true.
if you look at it as what did you learn along the way? I mean, it sounds trite, but it's the journey, it's not the destination.
Right.
But truly, when you're building up your kids, teaching them, it is about the journey and the wins, and the places where maybe you had a fumble, that's okay.
Yeah. And the big picture, because they're so focused on what's happening today and this week, it's our job to maybe help them see the big picture, what's happening later this year or in the next few years.
Yes, their brains aren't made to think that way, so they do need us to help them.
And what if you're a parent who does have a favorite? Are you a bad person?
Well, I only have one child, so I don't know. I don't know what you're talking
You got
about.
one
He
favorite
is
and
my
same least favorite,
Well, wait, so you mean telling your children like you're
No,
my
I wouldn't say
favorite?
tell them, but I mean, what if
You
you
know,
are a
you
parent where it's
wouldn't
like,
tell
you know, you
them.
got 3 or 4 kids and you're like, I've always kind of, meshed the best with this one.
Well, I mean, I think that's a reflection of the world.
Yeah.
And your dynamic at home and the safety that kids get to feel from their parents that, yes, I can always talk to dad about this. It's a little harder talking to mom about this, but it's okay because I can talk to mom about something else that I would never talk to dad about. That just parallels the dynamics that we have once we leave the household.
Yeah.
And I think those are good dynamics to understand because they're there, and I think ignoring them isn't going to do your child any good.
Yeah. And
Okay,
there's different stages, right? Like this week, you may be in an argument with your teenager, and next week, you patch things up.
And that's also a learning process for them, that it's
Yeah.
not the end of the world if they get into a fight, that there's a way to bridge and communicate and get over it.
And teenagers don't stay crazy forever. That's the good news.
Yeah.
No, they become crazy college students. That's what happens.
Dr. Shier, it's always great talking with you.
Thank you both so much.
Thanks for coming in.